This week on Hometown Ghost Stories, the true story that inspired the newest Conjuring universe movie, The Conjuring 4: Last Rites. A Pennsylvania family began experiencing strange occurrences in their new home after doing some renovations. What followed was one of Ed and Lorraine Warren's most horrifying and disturbing demonic cases. Join us as we dig into the mysterious and terrifying case of the Smurl Family Haunting.
Hometown Ghost Stories contains serious and often distressing events and is not intended for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
West Pittston, Pennsylvania, 1926. 30 years have passed since the twin shaft disaster of 1896, the day smoke and fire swallowed the lives of 58 men and boys. The official story is well known. A breaker caught fire, flames raced through the wooden shaft, and the miners were trapped, suffocating in the dark. On a late stormy afternoon, a young reporter from the Wilkes-Barre Record sits in his cramped, nicotine-stained office, expecting an interview about a past tragedy. Instead, he'll hear something that was never meant for print.
Mr. Harlan, thank you for coming in. I know this must not be an easy subject.
No, it ain't easy. But the nightmares don't leave me be. Thought maybe telling it plain might quiet them down some.
The man's face was weathered, carved in deep lines, his eyes restless, searching corners of the room as if they might shift when he wasn't looking. His hands, still scarred and blackened at the nails, gripped the brim of his cap.
You were 28 when the collapse happened?
28. Old enough to know my way around the rock. Young enough to still think myself stronger than it.
The records say that it was the fire that...
Fire didn't start it. Fire was just the smoke that the devil left behind.
The words landed heavily between them. The reporter's pen hesitated above the page.
The devil?
You think the earth just gives away on its own like that? The timbers crack, the air grows sour, and the dark starts breathing? No. Something woke up down there. Something old. Something hateful.
Harlan leaned forward.
It was the 43rd shaft. The one they said was too deep for its own good. We'd hit a vein no one's seen before. Blacker than night. Glistened like oil under lamplight. Soon as the pick struck it, it went wrong.
And what do you mean by wrong?
The air shifted. The air down there was always the same. Damp and stagnant. Thick with dust. But something changed in that moment.
The rain outside intensified, as though it too leaned closer to listen.
We dug anyway. Foreman said it was just the wind through the rock. But the deeper we went, the more the light bent strange. Shadows moved where there weren't any men to cast them. And then, we heard it.
Heard what?
Groaning. Deep. Guttural. Foreman thought it was the timbers under the weight, but I knew better. It was a deliberate sound.
Harlan's own hands trembled now, and the reporter realized the man was shaking all over.
One of the boys, Thomas, he dropped his lamp. That's when it breathed in. Took the air, the fire, the men. The roof came down. Saw my friends crushed beneath giant chunks of rock. We tried to rush back through the mine shaft, but it bottlenecked. I was the first through, but the men behind me, they got stuck in the opening. That's when the flames took them, melted them all together. I could hear the groaning from the walls. It transformed into a sick laugh.
So you believe the collapse was no accident?
I don't believe. I know. And you mark my words, kid. What we woke down there, it wasn't killed in the fire. It's just waiting. I can feel it.
The reporter lowered his pen. Outside, the storm had smothered what was left of the daylight, and in the dimness of the office, he swore he could feel a dark presence attached to the man. Something behind the emptiness in his eyes. Something that suggested there could be some truth to his story. I'm Dave Wilkins, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Conjuring, the Smurl Family Haunting. West Pittston was first settled in the late 1760s, part of the land disputed during the Yankee-Pennamite Wars between Pennsylvania and Connecticut. It carried a Revolutionary War legacy with Jenkins Fort and its early colonial families. The borough officially formed in 1857 following rapid development by the West Pittston Land Association. The community thrived with the growth of anthracite coal mining through the 19th and early 20th centuries. Mining disasters in the region underscored the danger of the work, like the Twin Shaft disaster in nearby Pittston City in 1896, when a massive cave-in claimed 58 lives, shaking the ground for miles and destroying property across the valley. By the mid-20th century, the decline of coal, repeated flooding, including Hurricane Agnes in 1972, and economic changes turned West Pittston into a quieter, mostly residential borough. The coal dust settled, the mines closed, and the town's days of industry gave way to modest neighborhoods. It was in one of these neighborhoods that a haunting would later draw national attention. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl moved into a duplex on Chase Street. The property had been damaged by the Agnes flood the year before and needed major repairs. To help along the process, Jack's parents moved into the other half of the duplex while Jack and Janet worked to restore the other side. At first, the home seemed like a fresh start, a place to build a life. But within a short time, small problems began to chip away at the peace. The first signs were subtle. A foul odor would drift through the house, moving from room to room with no clear source. Tools vanished during renovations, only to reappear later in odd places. Plumbing broke down without cause, and appliances failed despite being brand new. Towards the end of the renovation project, scratches and claw marks began showing up on new surfaces. They weren't typical scratches you'd see from the installation. The scratches looked deliberate, like an animal had attacked them. These weren't just maintenance headaches. The issues kept happening, even after the repairs were finished. The Smurls began to suspect there was more to it than just bad luck. By 1976, the house seemed to have a voice of its own. Loud bangs began shaking the rooms, sometimes so violently that the pictures rattled. Heather and Dawn, the Smurls' daughters, occasionally heard footsteps upstairs when no one was there. One particularly unsettling discovery came when Janet found deep claw-like scratches gouged into a bathroom fixture. No one in the family could explain it. In 1977, Jack and Janet welcomed the birth of their twin daughters, Karen and Shannon. It should have been a time of peace and happiness for the family, but rather, the disturbances grew harder to ignore. Janet began feeling like she was being watched while doing chores. Shadowy shapes would flit past doorways, but they'd be gone when she turned her head. The sulfur-like smell would sometimes become so strong it made the family nauseous. The activity still hadn't crossed into direct physical harm at this point, but the sense was clear. Something was building. In the years that followed, events became more frequent and more violent. The rotten stench returned often, sometimes joined by the smell of rotting flesh. Appliances turned on by themselves or broke unexpectedly. One television set even burst into flames. The knocking grew so loud that it shook the walls, and heavy furniture slid across the floor without anyone touching it. That's when the physical attacks began. Janet claims she was slapped, pushed, and scratched by unseen hands. Jack described sexual assaults by the entity. Sometimes these attacks happened in view of others. Their daughters reported being lifted from their beds, and Simon, the family dog, was thrown against a wall. In 1984, Janet was in the living room when she saw it. A black-caped figure with no face rushing past her. It moved through the kitchen and disappeared into another room in seconds.
The next day, Jack's mother, in her half of the duplex, saw the exact same figure rush through her own living room and kitchen before vanishing. Neither had spoken to one another about what they'd seen, yet their descriptions matched perfectly. By 1985, life inside the Smurl home had become a constant siege. Sleep came in short, intermittent bursts. Shadows moved in rooms where nobody stood, and the smell of sulfur could roll through the house, thick enough to make them gag. One hot summer night, Janet awoke from a dead sleep. A searing grip had locked around her ankle, yanking her down the bed. Her scream tore through the dark, waking Jack. He lunged forward, grabbing her leg with both hands and pulling back. For a split second, he thought he could stop it, and then his body went rigid. His arms locked, his muscles frozen by something he couldn't see. Janet's nails scraped across the sheets as she slid toward the edge of the mattress, her voice breaking in panic. At that moment, Simon, the family dog, began barking wildly from the foot of the bed. Jack could only watch in horror as an invisible force lifted him from the floor and slammed him against the wall. He yelped in pain and scrambled away, but there was no one there to defend against, nothing to fight. The pulling on Janet's legs stopped as abruptly as it began. She lay gasping, clutching her ankle, while Jack sat paralyzed with shock, his eyes fixed on the empty space at the end of the bed where the attack had begun. From deep inside the walls came heavy pounding, so loud it shook the plaster and made the pictures rattle. Next, as if to punctuate the night's terror, a deep, heavy flapping sound, like the wings of something massive, swept through the house, passing through walls and rooms without slowing. The next morning, Jack and Janet didn't talk about the attack in detail. They'd learned that reliving the event out loud could be just as exhausting as the event itself. Instead, they focused on one thing: getting the family out of the house, if only for a little while. They packed up the girls and planned a week-long camping trip, for their first real attempt at leaving the property behind for more than a day. While they were gone, Janet's friend Erin Turner called the house. To her surprise, a young girl answered on the first ring.
Hello?
Hi, is your mom home?
They don't live here anymore.
Later, Erin learned the truth. The house had been locked and empty the entire week. No one had been inside to answer the phone. For the Smurls, it was another chilling reminder. Whatever was in that house didn't need them there to make its presence known. Even the camping trip offered no refuge. The first night on their site, the family was jolted awake by loud banging, not from nearby campers, but coming from the roof of their camper, where nobody could have been standing. In the flicker of the firelight, Jack swore he saw a dark figure moving at the edge of the trees, watching them. Each time he turned a flashlight toward it, the shape was gone, but the pounding in the darkness went on. Not long after, a family friend suggested contacting Ed and Lorraine Warren, famous paranormal investigator and demonologists. The Warrens arrived with their psychic medium Diane and claimed to find 3 human spirits and 1 inhuman entity, a demon determined to destroy the family. During one visit, the Warrens insisted the Smurls bring them to their master bedroom to play Ave Maria. While the song was playing, the dresser drawers and mirror began to rattle violently. Ed quickly began praying aloud, and the movement stopped. Another night, the banging came back, and unplugged televisions began to glow so brightly they couldn't be looked at. Jack stayed up with Simon patrolling the house all night, after shouting at the demon to show itself. Ever since the haunting started, Janet had been frantically trying to involve the Catholic Church, particularly the one she grew up attending, but without any luck. The Catholic Church often performed exorcisms, but were very careful about which cases to take on so as not to end up embarrassed by being looped into a hoax. A few nights after the Warrens exposed the possibility of a demonic haunting, Jack saw something in his bedroom. Janet was sound asleep next to him when he woke unexpectedly. There, in the corner of the room, he saw them. 2 women dressed in period clothing, one old and one younger. They said nothing, just looked at him, smiling, and not in a pleasant way. It was a mocking smile, almost a sneer. Then they slowly walked backwards into the closet and disappeared. On the Warrens' next visit, Lorraine told the family she had seen the demon. She explained it never stood straight, always hunched, and its desire was to twist their perception of reality. She claimed to have seen it hunching outside the twins' bedroom window, staring in. Lorraine's warnings didn't slow the activity. The Warrens brought in a priest to bless the home, moving from room to room with holy water and prayers. But even during the blessing, the air in the house felt heavy, as if it were resisting. Not long after that, Ed was in his home when something seized him by the throat. Invisible fingers tightened around his windpipe, cutting off his breath. In his mind, or perhaps in the air itself, came a guttural snarl. "You dirty bastard." It was followed by a threat to leave, one he knew wasn't coming from any living person. On another occasion, Janet stood frozen in the hallway as she witnessed the family dog, Simon, dematerialize right in front of her eyes. One moment he was there, standing at her feet, and the next, he was gone, only to reappear seconds later in the same spot, as if nothing had happened. Then came one of the most disturbing nights of all. Jack was in bed when a figure appeared. Pale white skin covered in scales, with red unblinking eyes. It climbed onto him. He couldn't move. The creature's skin oozed green pus as it assaulted him. Hours later, their daughter, Dawn, woke from a nightmare and told her mother she had seen the same creature in her dream, attacking their father. At this point, Janet was desperate for help, so she called the Catholic diocese directly. On the other end of the line, she was surprised when a man introduced himself as Father Calloway. His voice was calm, reassuring. He promised he could help, that he would come to the house himself. For the first time in months, Janet felt a flicker of relief. She told Jack, and the two of them had felt like an enormous burden had been lifted from their shoulders. But when Jack called the diocese the next day to confirm, the tone changed. There was no record of a Father Calloway. No priest by that name in the entire diocese. The call Janet had made, the man she had spoken to, didn't exist. With no help coming from the church, the Warrens reached out to Father McKenna, a traditionalist priest who had experience with exorcisms. On the first attempt to exorcise the house, Ed and Lorraine had planned to meet Father McKenna at the Smurl house. While Ed and Lorraine were driving to the location, they were crossing a bridge when a sudden violent spasm seized Ed's body. His hands locked on the steering wheel, his foot jammed on the brake. They had to pull over and abandon the trip. Despite the Warrens not in attendance, Father McKenna arrived and stepped into the Smurl home, determined to solve the problem. The family followed him from room to room as he sprinkled holy water and recited blessings in Latin. The air seemed to shift, colder, heavier. Halfway through the ritual, a scream rang out from upstairs, high-pitched, childlike. It echoed through the house, cutting through McKenna's words. He didn't stop. The family clutched each other and stared at the ceiling until, as suddenly as it had begun, the scream ended. The blessing was complete. The house was still. The peace from Father McKenna's blessing was short-lived. Within weeks, the house stirred again. It began as faint knocking in the walls, the kind they'd heard before. Then came the smell, that same rancid stench that rolled through the rooms without warning. Soon, objects were moving again, chairs scraping across floors in empty rooms, doors swinging shut. The attacks returned too. Janet felt the shove of invisible hands against her back, the sting of a sudden slap. Jack endured another assault, waking drenched in sweat and shaking. The scratching inside the walls grew louder, as if something clawed from within. At night, the heavy flapping, like giant wings, passed overhead, sweeping through the rooms. By now, word had spread beyond Chase Street. Local newspapers began running stories about the Smurls. Photographers showed up on the sidewalk. The Warrens held a press conference, urging the Catholic Church to intervene more forcefully. The case split the community. Some neighbors defended the family, while others whispered that it was a hoax. In 1987, after more than a decade in the duplex, the Smurls packed their belongings and moved to Wilkes Barre. They hoped distance would end it, but in the weeks that followed, they claimed the entity had found them again. Flickers of movement in the corner of the eye, foul smells in rooms that had just been cleaned, and then, slowly, the activity faded. The Catholic Diocese of Scranton never confirmed that an exorcism had taken place. Jack and Janet never backed down from their story, insisting until their deaths that every word was true. Skeptics countered with their own explanations. Stress, sleep paralysis, a bid for attention. Whether it was proof of the paranormal or product of belief, the Smurl haunting left its mark on the family, on the town, and the long list of American ghost stories perpetuated by people like me. Hello, and welcome into Hometown Ghost Stories, episode number 172. I'm Jesse Wilkins, joined by Rob Coakley. Hello, Rob.
If you were wondering how we celebrate birthdays here at Hometown Ghost Stories, we make you work extra. We make you cover one of the biggest ghost stories in American history and make sure that you have it done on your birthday. You do not get to go celebrate. You have to work. And I'm not even going to thank you, Dave. You're supposed to do this.
We're also joined by the birthday boy, Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hello. I did spend an awful lot of my birthday today finishing up this video, but that is actually my fault for deciding to do it like that.
Or deciding to be born on this day.
I know, that was the real mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is your fault. Big shout out to everybody hanging out in live chat. We got 5 gifted Hometown Ghost Stories memberships on YouTube from a brand new viewer, Bad Wolf Plays. Thank you so much, and welcome to the family there, Bad Wolf. Also, become a member yourself. Happy resubdated Velcro Fisticks. We got $9.99 in super chat from Lockwood and Company, who said, got my tickets for the live event, and I'm so excited. Yeah. We are excited to see you at the live event. That's a lot of fun. Also, 1984 in chat, I think on purpose, from Whisper.
I would guess probably on purpose.
Yeah, those 8 and 4s are reversed. It should have been 1948, but
yeah.
You know,
well, I wasn't implying that the donation wasn't on purpose, but purposely 1984, which is the year Dave was born. And then 5 gifted from the one and only Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal. So thank you so much for your generous donations. If you want to look at Brent, you can come do that at our live event. He's going to be there. So Brent's going to be opening up with a live podcast as well. And tickets are selling. So make sure you grab your tickets to the live event. The link is in the description, or you can type it in chat. The mods will drop it there. And but this is a big one today. So obviously with the new Conjuring movie coming out, they are going to tell the tale that we just told you. So
are they?
Who knows? Because it's Hollywood. They're going to do their thing. But this is a pretty popular case. I had read a book on it. I actually just reread the book on it to prepare for tonight's episode by the Warrens. And it's a pretty thorough book. And this is a haunting that went on for a long time. It was demonic in a sense. And there was incubus, succubus attacks.
Which are demons.
Yes. So there was all sorts of hauntings going on at this house, from objects moving around, from light hauntings to serious stuff with people getting attacked, animals getting attacked. You don't like to see the dog getting attacked, obviously. So very, very violent and terrifying haunting. And it has been met with a lot of criticism and skepticism, as many major cases do, especially cases involving the Warrens.
Oh, yes, this is very true. This is one of their bigger cases, too. Obviously, they're making a movie about it. And it was a good one to cover because I, like you, also read the book a while back, and I actually forgot a lot about this haunting when I went back and reread it. But it's definitely one of their bigger ones, and one of the ones that they drew a lot of skepticism and whatnot for. So it'd be fun.
It's actually their last big case.
That's how the Conjuring movie's branding it. You could pull up a chronological timeline of their events and possibly figure out which one was the last one.
Well, I'm not saying it's their last case. I'm saying I think this was like their last big case that garnered a lot of attention. I think because they got a lot of, we'll get into it, but they got a lot of skepticism on this particular case. And I think it hurt them. I think this case hurt them for quite some time.
Right, which is weird because they got a lot of skepticism on a lot of their cases, a lot. So I think this one is problematic for me, at least, for a few different reasons that we can get into in a little bit. But there are some things about this haunting that I wanted to talk about before we get into the.
This one was after the Amityville case, which was undoubtedly the most controversial one, in which I believe, which is why this one was met with so much skepticism, was because of all the blowback from Amityville. And if you want more on that, go back and check out our episode that we did on Amityville. And we go heavily into the, the good and the bad with that, with the handling of that case.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Do we verbally shout out our RIP of the week?
No,
I don't believe so.
Is it
Mike.
me?
It's Mike Blake. It's not you, Rob. We can't dip in for ourselves.
Happy for you, Mike Blake. Thought it was my week.
You know what, Rob? Sign up for Patreon, okay?
Only Rob would demand to be the RIP of the week on Dave's birthday. Like, if
My-
going to be any of us.
My acting performance in that opening ghost story trumps Dave's birthday.
Your acting performance was phenomenal. I was so delighted when you sent me that audio and I listened to it. I was like, oh, yes.
It's actually good that I didn't listen to your audio before I did my audio, because I would have then realized that we were being a couple silly guys, and then it would have not been a very serious opening ghost story.
True. But it was a serious opening ghost story, and you might be wondering what the hell that opening ghost story even had to do with the Smurl family haunting, and that would be a good question because I didn't actually reference it. I meant to.
Hey, what did that opening ghost story have to do with the Smurl family haunting?
Rob,
We're all
I'm glad
wondering.
you asked. Glad you asked. So this was based on the story. The intro story was based on the 1896 twin shaft disaster, which was a mining collapse, obviously, that happened back then. And the way that it's tied to this story is obviously the opening ghost story was they believe that there was something inhuman down there that maybe possibly caused the mining accident and then lingered, like they dug a tunnel and accidentally channeled something that was ancient and asleep. And that is actually one of the theories as to what was haunting the Smurl house, which was right near this twin shaft disaster, like not right above it, but really close to it. And so one of the theories was that during that collapse, something ancient and demonic was awakened and ended up haunting the Smurl family. So it was basically an origin story for the Smurl haunting.
Which would coincide with some of the stuff that I was reading where people thought that house was haunted before the Smurls even purchased it.
Mm-hmm.
So it already had, from what I was tough to verify, like actual people that said it. But there's reports that people were saying, this is all subjective at this point, but that there are reports saying that people within the town thought that house was it was like the haunted house of the town before they lived there.
Yeah, that adds up. I believe that after they moved out of the house, the people who moved in didn't experience anything, which if it's demonic, the theory behind that would be the demon attaches itself and haunts the human, not the house. So it could have just been laying dormant in that house for a while before it found somebody to latch onto.
Yeah, and it showed evidence of that. If the story is to be believed, I mean, it followed them. They couldn't even get away for a little vacation when they went camping. The demonic force followed them there, and they were warning them all along the way because they're like, "We're just going to sell the house and move." And they're like, "It's probably not going to work because it's just going to follow you. It's attached itself to you. It's already shown that it's attacking the entire family at this point. So it's believed that it wasn't going to help, but that also explains why the house wasn't haunted when the next people moved in."
Right. So when they initially had said that they were going to sell the house, and then Ed Warren said that probably won't work, they continued to stay there, and then things escalated and got worse and worse and worse to the point where Jack Smurl was like, "What if we just tear the house down and take the financial loss?" Which is an insane thing to do. Granted, he didn't do it. If he did do it, that would lean a lot of credence to the story, but he didn't do it. But to even want to do that or to consider it, I think holds a lot of weight, because that would be obviously a massive financial hit that you'd take for doing that. at the
Yeah.
risk of it possibly not even working.
Right. And if you compare that to like the Amityville case, which I'm very skeptical about, but I enjoy both sides of the story on that. I mean, the fact that they picked up and left with all their possessions behind and abandoned, thousands of dollars worth of, things that they owned, that seems like, almost a little bit more credible than just not doing that. So it is interesting. However, I feel like if I look at the cases as a whole, this family didn't profit off of the story, at least not in the short term. So like the financial gain wasn't there for this family. It was there for the Amityville, for the Amityville haunting. They never sold the movie rights to this story, for many, many years. I don't even know if at this point the Smurls are connected to any of the profits that are about to come flooding in from
There
the
was a movie
Conjuring.
that came out, just to interrupt you. There was a movie that came out based on the original book. It was like 1990. Ended up being a made-for-TV movie, so that was released. The juxtaposition between this and the Amityville house, though, that I find fascinating, is Amityville was like lightning. It was in, haunting progressed immediately, out within a month.
28 days, yeah.
Yeah, this one, it's a very slow progression over years. Like everything that you hear it's a slower progression than the Amityville house for sure.
Maybe. So I think it was still it seemed like it was a couple of years, right, for it to
Right.
really progress, but it was dialed up to 10 for a decade. So I mean,
Right.
like,
Well, that's what I'm saying though,
yeah.
but it took a while to get to that progression, and then they stayed for it. I mean, they were children being born while they lived there.
Yeah.
It's very different in that respect, that there was a progression. So it wasn't a every night thing in the beginning. It was a few things here and there. And that's like more of the hauntings that we hear, where they start small and ramp up rather than just like full throttle once you move in there. So
Yeah. Okay. So the reports that I had read was that they made no initial profit, because a lot of people thought that when they were doing like public appearances and everything with the Warrens, that they were doing all of this for money, and they didn't make a dime off of any of that. They were just so desperate for help that they thought if they did some public appearances that they could make money. But upon further research, they did profit off of the movie and the book. This was all like 15, 20 years after the haunting. So it definitely wasn't like they weren't adding to the story initially to make money. That didn't seem like the motive there. But eventually, I mean, it's never been disclosed how much they actually made off of it, but they took some sort of a percentage from the book and the movie, and I would assume the new movie that's coming out as well. So I take that back.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like to that point though, is this one doesn't feel like it was a cash grab at the time, right? Like, yeah, sure, they made money off it. It's their names, right? It's their story. So when somebody did notice it and made the book and the movie, they paid them the royalties that they were owed. But it didn't. This one, unlike Amityville, didn't feel like it was a cash grab right off the bat.
Right.
Where the Amityville family was when they were talking to the author like days after the whole. The author was basically involved in the investigation of the haunting.
Right. Yeah, with them, I mean, they even took the steps to, like, when they did their first TV appearance, they were basically shrouded in that appearance, like they were behind a wall. And Ed and Lorraine Warren had no problem being on camera and everything. This is what they do. But family changed their names for the interview. They were behind that kind of, the screen when you see like, former mafia people being interviewed that like have flipped their informants or whatever. Like when they're doing those interviews, they want to conceal their identity. But I always look at those. I'm always like, I feel like if you kind of knew that dude, you would be able to know exactly who that is. Just the shape of like the head and the haircut and stuff. Like, I feel like.
Or you mean like Jack Smurl, like personally, like specifically, or just anyone?
No? I mean, in general, when you see those interviews where they're like, they distort the voice a little bit and they put a shadowy, they turn off the lights and do the interview. I feel like if you've ever seen that person in the light, you'd be like, oh, that's Dave. That's Dave right there. I can tell.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe. Or anyone who knows how to use sound equipment could just take the altered voice and just turn the pitch up till you get the
True. Yeah.
I find it interesting that they were able to make money off of the name Smurl, which is top 3 worst names in the history of last names.
Oh, the Smurl.
The Smurls. Terrible name.
I've heard worse for sure. But there were some weird distinguishing hauntings in this one. I mean, distinguishes them from like your average run of the mill haunting that you always hear about, Lady in White, or there's they had the knocking and whatnot. That's pretty stereotypical, but the flapping in this one I thought was in a very weird detail and odd that they heard it. Also, this is one of the things that neighbors heard, and the flapping was so big and so loud that neighbors would hear it as they were walking by the house. What could that even be?
Yeah, you really don't want to hear flapping when a succubus is involved.
Agreed. But that's
that was weird. It wasn't even just like that. So there was like a bent kind of cloaked shadow figure that was probably the most commonly seen, and the little girls were seeing it, and everyone's being attacked by it and stuff like that. But they were also seeing like a glowy apparition, which was very weird. I said it was like almost like a blinding light. It would be in the, if I recall correctly, it was in the bathroom mostly, which the bathroom was like a focal point for this haunting. People were getting attacked in the shower, seeing these ghosts in the bathroom, but it was like a glowing figure. It was a very weird description. They said they could see the shoulders and like the head, had no face, also had no neck, and it was so bright that like, it was basically blinding how bright this figure was. So very strange, obviously like a shadow figure.
When the Warrens were involved in this case, because Lorraine Warren was a clairvoyant, so she was able to hear the spirits, basically, or see the spirits. I forget which she does, but she said that she was able to locate or confirm that there were 3 human spirits and 1 non-human spirit. And non-human spirit would be a demon in most cases. Sometimes they're poltergeists, but this one was, she believes, a demon. And the 3 human spirits, one was a harmless elderly woman spirit, and then there was possibly a violent young girl's spirit, and then there was a man who had died in the home. And the man who died in the home, they believe, was a man who was abusive to his wife at the time. But they thought he was a negative entity, and the little girl spirit was a violent entity, which could have been the one that answered the phone when the friend called. And then there was a harmless elderly woman spirit that they felt was being tormented by the other negative spirits, including the demon.
She's already a ghost. She's already stuck there. Leave her alone.
Leave the poor lady
haunt
alone.
in peace.
Right.
Phone stuff's scary because it's like multiple different people that reported that had different instances with the phone.
Right. Well, that one instance with Erin, the friend of the family, who called when they were on a camping trip, not knowing they were on a camping trip, called and actually had that conversation with the little girl, who people have been just saying sounds like the creepiest little ghost of all time. And I will tell you, that was the voice of my daughter. Yes. So, yeah, shout out to Juliet. She's 8, and Kate, my wife, who was the voice of the Erin there for that.
You just made all of us do your episode this week. Just all of us had to do everything.
Yeah.
Like it's your birthday or something.
I was just trying to get the day off. It didn't work. I know a lot of voice acting in this one, but it was a big story.
Top tier.
Yeah.
Some say Rob's up for an Oscar. A Robster.
A Robster.
First ever Robster Awards. Maybe we'll do that at the live event.
The live show.
Just give an Oscar to Rob.
Yes.
Everyone already knows who's going to win it. It's the Robsters.
The Robsters. It'd be like the Dundies.
They get that every year.
I think that's an installment in our live shows. Every year we just give Rob a Robster.
Whatever acting performance is most recent. But so in addition to these 3 or 4 spirits that the Warrens confirmed, we'll say confirmed, we'll take that with a grain of salt. But in addition to that, there seemed to have been some other spirits that Jack and Janet Smurl were witnessing in addition to these other spirits. So if there was one demonic presence there was also an incubus, there was also a succubus, which would be other demonic presences, and also shadow figures. And Ed Warren has a weird theory about shadow figures, and he says they're always negative. They're some of the most dangerous hauntings are shadow figures, which unfortunately is a very common haunting too. A lot of people report seeing shadow figures, but he said not only can they pass through walls, they can also take shape and almost like an actual tangible mass, like it can solidify itself to be as hard as concrete. So you'll sometimes hear about people running into a shadow figure and bumping into it and falling to the ground. pretty scary stuff. So they had a lot going on at this house for a very long period of time.
That's especially alarming for anybody that always runs full force at a shadow figure. You gotta be careful.
Yeah.
It could be concrete.
Yeah, that would be no fun. But the other thing that I thought was pretty interesting, but maybe
before we get too far away from it, I don't mean to steamroll you there, is we were talking about the voices on the phone. The other major one, which I found to be actually one of the most concerning parts of this investigation, was when she had called a church and spoke with a priest who just never existed.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to think, like, if that story is true, which I always like to start off with an open mind and say, okay, let's just take this family at their word for it. Then that was the demon pretending to be a priest on the phone saying everything's going to be fine. We'll take care of it and put her at ease. So, I mean, for what? I mean, the guy's not going to show up. Maybe it would. Demon priest. That's scary to think about.
That is scary.
Basically to like ease her and be like, no, don't worry about it. You know, we'll take care of it. And then maybe she would have left the thing alone a little bit for her to, I don't know, potentially possess somebody or something.
Right. And it really sounds like demonic manipulation in that case. And there's a few instances of that in this over the course of the Warrens' involvement. And there was that one, which was, you're right, probably the most concerning, right? And then there was the one that interfered with Ed and Lorraine Warren when they were driving on their way to the exorcism. And this is a recurring thing that happens in a lot of the Warrens' cases, is they say, once you try and intervene with an attempted demonic possession, the demons hate that. And they'll try to do anything to prevent you from intervening, right? So they'll pretend to be a priest on the phone just to mess with you, or maybe if you get a exorcist on his way to the house to perform an exorcism, they'll spin your car off the road. We hear this a lot in a lot of different cases, not even just Warren's cases, other demonic cases as well.
Cars are so often involved in demonic cases. It's just so consistent.
Well, if you look at it from both ways, right? So yes, this happens. The priests will lose control of their cars. Ed Warren will lock up while driving or whatever. But you also got to think about how common car accidents are. And if a priest just happens to be on his way to go do an exorcism and gets in a unbelievably common car accident, you know, the hysteria might point you in that direction. Like, oh, it must have been the demon taking over the car.
Right. It's the same theory with curses, right? If you believe you're cursed, you're going to attribute every negative thing that happens to you to that curse. If you believe that you have a demon trying to oppress you, you're going to attribute every negative thing that happens to you to that potential demonic oppression.
Yeah, every time you get sick, every time you're feeling depressed or sad, you know, like, oh, you know, you feel a cold spot in your house. It does happen where it's like everything kind of turns into hysteria where you attribute everything to that haunting. Which it still could be the haunting. I'm not ruling that out either, but, you know, to play both sides of the fence here.
You should look back in the past and see if before cars, if there was a lot of like horses losing, like going chaotic on their way to exorcism. Like, I know it sounds funny, but I'm being serious. Like they just lose control of the horses or something.
Yeah, like
carts getting torn.
Yeah, like the wheel falls off the wagon or something.
Yeah.
I think you can say the wheel falls off the horse.
yeah.
Could be. I'm sorry I couldn't make your exorcism. I got in a really bad horse accident.
The guy who I was piggybacking sprained his ankle.
It was a hit and run, literally. A hit and gallop. But yeah, so there's a lot of apparent demonic interference in this one. But one of the things that kind of made me chuckle, because I was like, that's just kind of a weird thing in this, and I guess I get why they were doing it. But on one of the very first, it actually might have been the very first time Ed and Lorraine visited the Smurl house, they were like, take us to your master bedroom. We need to play Ave Maria for the demon. So they did that. And of course, the dresser starts shaking violently and the mirrors start rattling and everything.
To be fair, I mean, we do this anytime we show up at a new house. We're like, take me to your bedroom. I'm going to play Ave Maria. I'll be with
6 hours.
I'll be with you in 2 minutes and 48 seconds. All right, let's see how long that song is.
It is slightly less ridiculous than playing Passion of the Christ on repeat 24/7 until the haunting stops.
Classic.
Damn, that song is 6 minutes and 7 seconds long. That wasn't even close.
Yeah, you were way off.
There is a 10-hour version on YouTube, which that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. Give me 10 hours. I'm going to the bedroom.
Yeah. But that was a pretty weird one. We pretty much already talked about the while they were away camping. and this is kind of where we learned that they were being possessed by a demon because the spirit followed them, but it also stayed back at the house while they were away, which is weird too. So that's one thing that I've heard skeptics say, like, all right, if the demon haunted them, then why was it still haunting the house? Why can people, a couple of the points that were made by the authors of the book on this was that while they were camping, they were being tormented by the demon still. And while they were away, people were walking by the house, hearing the flapping sounds, hearing screaming, calling the house, hearing people answer the phone when no one was there. So it's like, how can it do both?
Well, I think it could be multiple things here. So number one is, according to the Warrens, there's not just demons here. There are ghosts here as well. So you could just be dealing with a haunted house in general.
Bingo.
That was apparently reported as well before. Or, if there's multiple demons here, then one demon's like, I'm going to go for a ride with these guys. I'm going to torment them. You stay back, torment the house. Send the ghost crows around, flap around.
The ghost crows.
Yeah.
Yes.
They left the flapper behind, and they sent the tormenting demon.
Right. To be fair, nobody ever said anything about ghost crows. I just generated that image of crows because it looked creepy. But
Crows do be flapping.
they do be flapping.
Mhm.
They do be.
So
Put
next
that
shirt.
on the shirt. We have so many good shirt ideas lately.
They do be flapping.
Can never stop those crows from flapping.
What was the other one? It was like, I don't speak bird or something like that.
I don't speak bird. Yeah, that's right. I really do like that flapping haunting though. It's I mean, as silly as the word flapping is, it's so unique and so creepy. But
It is, yeah. It's not really one that we've heard too much of before. I don't think so, right? We've dealt with birds. Like, birds are common in hauntings, where it's like the birds will go silent or the birds will watch and behave strangely.
silent birds do no flapping.
But flapping around.
Mm.
Whisper has the slogan, HTGS, they do be flapping.
They do be flapping. I also found creepy the two women that kept appearing in Jack's bedroom while he was asleep. And it was such a creepy image that they portrayed in the book that I was just like, it just gave me goosebumps every time they referenced him. He'd wake up, they'd be standing in the corner of the room, grinning at him maniacally. And they wouldn't say anything. They wouldn't really do anything except for walk backwards into the closet and disappear, which is just so scary.
Yeah, he heard them talking first, though, right? Before they would do that.
Was it them that he heard talking? Because I know they did hear talking, right? They heard Janet would hear her name called, Jack, same, and whatnot. But I don't know if they ever attribute it to those exact ghosts.
I thought
That's
they
right.
did.
I think you might be right, Rob. I think it was like right after he heard the conversation, he woke up and then saw them grinning. So we might be getting the timeline wrong here.
Oh, yeah,
There's
no,
just
you're
so
right.
much
You're right.
going on.
I do remember that.
So I just bring it up because does that remind you of another haunting that we covered?
The talking part or the two people standing?
The two ghosts standing there talking, like it reminded me of Hinsdale when she would wake up and she would hear the two women talking about making her sick. And that they were like outside the window and like, we need to make her more sick to basically control her. Right. Like, so very similar to the Hinsdale haunting in that respect.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even draw that comparison. No.
Yeah.
But those two were pretty creepy. The sexual attacks were concerning, I would say, especially. So the first one that Jack talked about with the woman or the succubus that was pale, and he described her, it looked like a old woman with long white hair, pale scaly skin,
sores all over her body. He said like her
oozing sores,
gums were like green. It was missing teeth, like it absolutely disgusting.
It sounded
description.
just like that ghost from the Shining. Remember, it was like the beautiful woman in the room with Jack Torrance, and then he turns or she turns into this like creepy old. It sounded like when they're describing it, except for the scales, it sounded just like that.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty awful description.
Donnie in chat says Dave's internet be flapping, which
luckily the audio has been fine, but your video has been freezing up. But that's okay.
Oh, damn.
We like looking at Frozen Dave anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got to cryogenically freeze you soon, anyways. You old fuck.
I know, right? Hopefully. So this
It would be
haunting
funny. It would be funny just to have cryogenically frozen Dave on a screen there as we continue to do our streams.
Yeah,
Just all three of us. We just record like 100 episodes before we cryogenically freeze ourselves, and we're just all on here while we play the episode.
That'll be perfect. Us, and then we'll just put Walt Disney's head somewhere.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Give me a second. I'm just closing some stuff up. Yes. The so this haunting as a whole feels like it was pretty much unresolved. And I think eventually the family stopped being haunted. So I guess that could be a resolution. But for the most part, every time that they thought they had solved it, it would just start happening again. I think 2 or 3 different occasions. They even moved back to Wilkes Bar.
Yeah.
Back to where they originally moved from, and they said it was fine for a while, and then the haunting started again. So it feels like there was no resolution, but after the haunting stopped, then they kind of were like haunted by public scrutiny and skepticism and people wanting to go in and debunk the story. And this one, the debunkers had a lot of really good points, to the point where I actually think I'm on the side of the skeptics that think this one was probably not a haunting. And what's different about this from the Amityville one is, if the Amityville one was faked, it was faked on purpose, right? And I won't rehash it, but I went into a whole thing where I debunked the debunkers in that one. You can go back and listen to that if you're interested in that. But for this one, I think that it was probably not entirely fabricated. I do believe that the family did believe they were being haunted by something, and I think they were tormented, and I think it could have been a combination of mass hysteria, possible mental illness or mental issues that Jack had because he had suffered a traumatic head injury before the hauntings happened, and he had short-term memory loss and whatnot. So like I feel like that could have had an effect on it. And when
I believe he had electroshock therapy, and I believe he actually had brain surgery as well. It was something related to like meningitis.
Right. And so when the patriarch of the house, the guy who is, like everyone sort of looks up to and is the leader of the family, if he's seeing ghosts, especially the kids, they're going to believe it. Right. So,
yeah, but still, so even if you take the mass hysteria into this, we have reports that the house was haunted before they were even there, right? Like people were saying this house was already haunted. Stories were never gone back on. The kids have, to my knowledge, never gone back on anything that they said.
Correct.
You have phone calls that are happening without them being there. How did that happen?
Yeah, you also have other witnesses, neighbors. I mean, this could loop in with mass hysteria as well, but you have neighbors, visitors, priests, people that have experienced hauntings there as well. And the knocking on the walls wasn't the same as other cases, where typically you hear knocks, you're like, oh, that could be ghosts, could be pipes or whatever. The knocking seemed to get more intense whenever they attempted an exorcism, whenever they did a public appearance, whenever they did something to get rid of the ghosts. They said that the knocks were like a reminder that this, that the demon was still there. He was reminding you that he wasn't going anywhere. And you had extreme attacks here. You had the kids being attacked in the shower, their hands getting grabbed, them being pulled around, the wife pulled out of bed, like the dog being thrown against a wall, the wife getting thrown against the wall. Like there's a list of attacks here that if they're to be believed, like these are not things that can just happen because dad's seeing ghosts.
Sure. So now we're still, so here's the problem. And we're taking all of these witness accounts at face value, which is fine. I don't like to call people liars for no reason, but there are some interesting things that the skeptics who wanted to investigate this will have to say, right? So one of them was the CSICOP were representatives that were first invited, and then they were refused by the Warrens. The Warrens said, no, you're not coming in. And what they are is they're an organization that does scientific experiments on paranormal cases with the intent on trying to debunk them or finding a scientific reason for what was causing the haunting. Quote unquote.
Sure, but to be fair, if we were doing an investigation at a house and some crew was like, "Hey, let me come in and just prove you wrong this whole time," well, I would
would just let them right in. Jesse would just say, "Come
I let
right
everyone in. No,
here's
but if
the-
they were like, if I'm there, I'm like I'm here to do this to help this family and get to the bottom of this, and someone came in and be like, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. Like, dude, fuck off. Like, come back next week.
No, I don't agree with that at all, because so Ed Warren is one of them. He's a demonologist, and what exorcists and demonologists and good paranormal investigators will do if they're actually trying to solve a current ongoing haunting, which is not what we do, they go in to solve it. So part of solving it is you want to rule out possible scientific explanations. So if the Warrens are there to help the family and they're saying no to the people who want to do scientific investigations, they're not trying to help the family. They're just trying to tell a ghost story. So
Sure. Or the other people could be going in with bad intent. Like, we don't know what the behind the scenes was, what the conversation exchanges were. Like we don't know it, dude. If they came off like assholes, I would have been like, no.
So
I'm not
let's consider this then. Even if they did have the intent to be assholes about debunking it, if they provided a scientific explanation for something, that still helps, right?
Sure,
Hang on. Ed Warren was big on the skeptics. He'd say, come onto the site, do it. I challenge you to, disprove what I believe that I've proved. Even one time he was like, I'll give you a check for $5,000 if you can come and do this. The check's here. He's like, no one ever takes me up on it, when he was referring to the Amityville one. But so he embraces this. So for them to initially invite the CSICOP organization and then rescind that makes me skeptical. And the reason for that,
it's definitely a red flag.
The reason for that is the Warrens claim that they had audio and video recordings of all sorts of different documented hauntings. Numerous times they were asked to release those files for this case, and they refused and then died.
Right.
Yeah.
So
this is my biggest problem with the Warrens overall, not even just for this case, is there's a lot of claims of having video and audio proof of stuff that we just have still never heard for multiple cases.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, like I'm just playing devil's advocate here with this. Obviously, there's a lot of red flags that pop up when you're like, I welcome all criticism, and then they deny the criticism, or they deny the scientific evidence. Obviously, those are issues there. But at this point in their life, too, like Ed's health is failing. So it's like, if they didn't get around to releasing all the stuff that they were going to, I mean, he had a heart attack at some point. I don't know if that was
right before this case. This was his first case back.
Dude, you get a
heart attack
yourself as well. So it's like, while we would like everything to be presented on a silver platter, it's like the other things come up in life.
I gotta drop the big one on this one, though. And the big one for me is that almost all of the witness accounts, and definitely all of the witness accounts that were in Ed Warren's book that he said that he had, none of those have been independently verified. They're all accounts that Ed Warren said, and this person said this and that person said that, and you can't track these people down because they changed the names to protect them. So we don't know who these people actually are. This Erin person who made the phone call, we don't know if she really exists, or if it's because they never released the names of the actual people who were involved. Now, people have gone and talked to the actual person who lived next door, and they confirmed some of the things, but it was years later. So for me, I mean, this one's got a lot of holes in it. And while I think that the family was not intentionally, maliciously faking at least everything, maybe some things, how that usually happens with kids and hauntings that have big media attention, I do think that they probably were not experiencing an actual haunting here.
Or it's exactly like the Great Amherst mystery that we recently covered, right? Where the family may have potentially actually been experiencing somewhat of a haunting, and then somebody else comes in and plays it up big. I do know there is a report from one of the authors that wrote a book from the Warrens, and that's something that the Warrens would do, is they come in and they get a big percentage of these books that were get written about these places. And when the author was looking for more info, Ed allegedly told him to just make the book scary. I don't remember if it was this particular book.
Yeah, I remember hearing that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, like, that's the other problem with it, is I go back to, I think the family was experiencing something. I think they were being haunted. And then when you reach out to people that are supposed to help you, sometimes they're trying to take advantage of the situation. And
right.
Then it's like, so then everything sort of gets lost in the sauce at that point.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, if you believe the timeline of events and everything, like, they didn't just go right to the Warrens and was like, let's do some TV shows about this. They reached out to the church multiple times. They went, the wife went to several lectures with these people, and nobody would really take her seriously. So they were actively trying to seek help, and they were actively trying to get help through the church, and it just wasn't really happening because the church, again, go ahead.
I got a point on that too. So once the Warrens got involved, so Ed Warren had connections with the Catholic Church. So, and he used them on numerous different cases. And the way he would be able to get in with the church is he would provide the church the evidence that he has for the hauntings. And if he had the audio and video evidence that he claimed to have had, he would have provided that to the church, and the church would have worked with him. There was a reason the church denied them over and over and over again. It was because there was probably no real evidence, because otherwise he would use
on this particular case.
This particular case.
Yeah, just to clarify.
Yeah, and
because they did help them a lot.
We don't have timestamps on the evidence or anything. We don't even have the evidence, but this also could have been collected later on in the investigation. They were doing it for a while. So
true.
Yeah. It's one of those where it's like, I would just love to see some actual evidence and hear some actual evidence and analyze it myself, but we don't have it.
Yep.
But luckily, the Conjuring 4 is coming out, and they're going to have an exact account of all of the evidence, as they always do.
Yes, they will. And we'll be reviewing it, because I have a feeling that it's not going to be good. That's just my prediction on this movie.
It is.
I hope it is too, because I love the original one. I liked the second one a lot as well, and I thought the third one was disappointing. And my problem with them is they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the stories keep getting more fantastical. Where I really thought the first one was such a good ghost story.
Yeah. A lot of stuff taken out of context in all of those movies, and a lot of stuff added. But yeah, I usually do enjoy the movies. I don't like the third one. I think we reviewed the third one.
We did.
Yeah. Good. But this is the last one.
So they say. I call bullshit.
Well,
see, I don't, because I think this is like I said, this was like their last big case that they.
Oh yeah, because where do you go chronologically? I guess, right? Because they definitely skipped a few. I guess you're right. Maybe
they had to skip the one in Connecticut. As me and Dave were joking about, also the Haunting in Connecticut Part 2 that takes place in Georgia, which is amazing.
Which is the logical extension.
Yes. How do we do a Part 2? We set it in Georgia.
That's right.
A Haunting in Connecticut in Georgia.
Yeah, the third one started off so good, and then it just got so goofy with the Ed and Warren are now detectives. It's just, Ed and Lorraine are now detectives. It was just goofy the way they did that, and it wasn't very scary.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it actually. I still did enjoy it, but the first one was wild.
It was a well-produced movie. We don't have to re-review the movie, but
that's right.
This one allegedly the fourth. Not allegedly the fourth. It is the fourth. Allegedly the final. But I will say it's hard to walk away from a $1 trillion franchise.
Oh, they'll do more spin-offs. It's the last Conjuring movie, but
right.
They'll be they even flashed. I had to unfortunately see the trailer to this, and they flashed an image of Annabelle, and I'm like, why is she in? Why is Annabelle in this movie? What are we doing?
AJ asked a good question. Out of all the Warrens cases you guys covered, which one do you like or think was more believable? I love the one in England, the Enfield poltergeist, and it wasn't really a Warrens case. The Warrens got involved very late in that case, so it was very much, I can't remember his name. It was a guy Lion Playfair and the main investigator there. Anyways, it was they got involved very late, but the haunting in that case was extremely interesting, and the audio is chilling.
Yeah, so that was a good one. My favorite is definitely Amityville, just because of the definite concrete history that led to this haunting in that story is just it trumps all of the other ones. You have whatever reasons for the haunting are, whether they're demonic or based on history that really can't be confirmed. The Amityville history the true crime history is brutal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Rob, do you have a favorite
one? Probably just the original one in
Rhode
Island, because we've been there.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, and they were very much involved in either of those two cases, the Enfield or the Rhode Island one.
That is true.
There it is. Morris Gross. That was the one.
Morris
Colin.
Gross, yeah.
That was one where he moved in for like 74 years. He's like, I'm going to live with you. We're going to get to the bottom of this for many years. Yeah.
So I like that one just because like we've been there, and it was always jarring to me the first time we pulled up to it, and the house is just way more creepy than the movie house.
Oh,
Like,
man.
it was just like,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Well,
wow.
allegedly, the reason for that is James Wan went to the real house and was like, "Get me out of here. We'll build a
Yeah.
set."
Yeah.
It was also too small to film
way
in.
too small to film in. Yeah.
Maybe that's why he said it.
Might have
Maybe James Wan's just a dick.
been. I would like to think that it was because it was extremely haunted.
Right.
Yes.
Hopefully Matt
Also-
Rife buys it because we need to have a sane person in there
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
so we can go back. But for now, we don't. Anyways, anything else on this haunting, gentlemen?
No, that'll do it.
It's a fun one. It's a controversial one. I'm on the side of, I don't know. I want to say I'm on the side of it absolutely being haunted. I think that this was another case of a guy that was, rock solid American guy, just not, didn't believe in ghosts. There's another one of those cases where the dad's like, it's nonsense. And then all of a sudden these things started happening to the whole family. It was also another case where you had all of these cases have a girl that's like 12, 13 years old that seems to attract poltergeist activity and demonic activity. And they say that's one of the leading factors. So, all the pieces were in the puzzle. This was right on the time of these big hauntings happening, early 70s this one lasted a while, but, early to mid 70s. So.
Yeah, Satanic Panic went all the way into the 80s for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this is the perfect opportunity for our listeners to tell us what they think in the comments or on Discord or wherever you'd like to let us know. Was it haunted? Was it kind of haunted? Was it very haunted? Was it demonically haunted? Let us know your thoughts as well.
Yeah, Eric asked if there's any plans for a Warren's museum trip. I would love to. I would assume that they are going to be very booked up rapidly. It's awesome that Matt Rife bought it, but at the same time, it's like when you have a celebrity like that buying up a piece of property like that, the bookings are going to be years.
It's
in
true.
advance. And
It's like everyone relax. He's not going to be there when you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Relax.
Thank
Yeah,
God I'd
but
be too distracted. He's too handsome. I'd be too distracted the whole time.
We are going to try to, though. We're waiting to see when that drops and they're allowing the booking. So we're going to try to get in there. Price is always a thing with those as well. Some places are getting a little too big for their britches in what they're trying to charge for an overnight.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm not saying he will or will not. I'm not sure what they're going to be looking
Yeah,
for.
but the demand is going to be crazy. So
Yeah.
they'd be crazy not to, but it is what it is. It's cool that it went to a person who has plans to use the location for what it is meant for, which is overnight investigations and opening up the museum to whatever they are able to do with it. So it's exciting news. It's exciting news. Once again, big shout out to Bad Wolf Plays for gifting, Lockwood and Company, Whisper for the donations, and Brent from the Paranormal Portal for gifting memberships on YouTube. If you got a gifted membership, make sure you say thank you. Big happy birthday to Dave, and come see Brent. Come see him live at our live show. Come see us too. We'll be there. Also just announced East Coast Trash Pickers, Seth on guitar. You may have heard much of his guitar in the show. He's going to be playing some live music at the show, and Colin Campbell's going to be hosting. It's going to be a good time. Grab your tickets. They're available now.
Yeah, we've already sold 3 times more tickets than we did at this point last year. So this event is probably going to be bigger. So definitely get your tickets as soon as you can. And we are establishing a place for a bit of an after party as well, which we'll have more news on soon.
Absolutely. So without further ado, I think that'll do it, gentlemen. Anything else?
Patreon names?
Oh, crap.
Yeah, and I have a review.
Okay,
I do have a review. Yeah, while you pull up your thing, I definitely already had my review pulled up to read.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about it.
You're definitely not stalling.
He's not a filibuster.
This is from Go76942, titled Fun Podcast. I've been listening to this podcast for a couple of months now, and I have to say it's one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to.
Hell yeah.
Simple, to the point, and perfect. You also can leave us a 5-star review. It helps us out a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yes.
doesn't
Also
cost you
helps
anything.
a ton when you jump on Patreon, which does cost you something, but it's worth it. Absolutely. Shout out to our VIPs. We have Donnie N, Dana D, Karen S. Rob hid this episode's Pirates in his belly button. That's why we didn't get any. I went to a crossroads and made a deal with the Sock Monkey Devil. He made me a pizza guy. Ryan F, J Gooch 725, Jennifer A, Mike, Nick M, Casey W, Brandina 77, Kathy F, Ghost Nurse JP, another Vice. Happy birthday, Dave.
Yeah.
The gorilla would still win. I'm with you. Tess, Hoofprints Solved, Modern Family, Season 11, Episode 11. I haven't watched that show. I watched a little bit of that show. Thought it was funny. Kate and Steve M, Glitter Tees, Cammy from Washington, Siobhan, not Sharon, Kelly C, Jennifer P, Liz Young, Donnie N, Inspires Gaming, Allison V, Robert H, Anna C, The Grim Reap Bird, Mom and Pops W, Father Squash, The Elder, Lisa J, and Sock Monkey, Shenanigans, M.O.B. Who is
Maybe
also...
it was the Grim Reap Bird that was flapping in the house.
Oh, maybe.
I didn't even consider that. Yes. But might be also the RIP of the week. So shout out to you. And then we have, this is a lie, but I'm going to read it anyways. Rob is handsome, strong, and brave. Got the name wrong. Joe and the dogs, Freya and Frank.
Sounds like Rob now can be the RIP of the week because he joined Patreon.
Yeah, see?
Look at that. Yeah, Mothman screamed when he won a Robster from the phone ghost. Yes, a Robster indeed. West Mass is the best Mass. Smurfette was the best Smurf ever. Changed my mind. Degenerate gambler voodoo ghost who shouldn't have hit on 19. Jamie E. T-Cat. Whisper. Kitten Clown Dozer. Jeremy M. The Macho Mandolph. Beth C. Sarah B. Her Lady Spookship. Victim of Ohio. Morgan S. Colby always remembers. Kath Q. The other Rachel B. Marfire. Lily. Anthony. I'm out of wrestling references. Thanks for playing along, y'all. T. Rob's belly button loves Ohio. Dave be flapping now with his old man skin. What was flapping? It was just Dave.
It's just his old skin.
Swamp Witch with Haunting Mirrors, Seth on guitar, and Human Soup. Thank you so much for being part of the Warren's Wards, by the way. Very appropriate for this episode.
Yes.
And the Ghost Pirate Mafia, not as appropriate for this episode, but always entertaining. We have Legend has it, the Mississippi Bigfoot has a migratory belly button. That was really hard to read without spaces, but I got it. This is not a shuttle. Chaos Demon, Patrice R, Cammy and Steve R, Whitby's Hand of Glory knocks on walls. Oh boy, this is even harder to read without spaces. Geez. Yep, this will be a tough one.
What's happening, Jesse?
I can't even get past the first syllable. Pneumonotraumatic scoptically volcanonosis. I fear that that's a real thing.
I don't think so. I think the volcanic part throws it off, but maybe.
Lord knows if he even says volcanic. I might have said it anyways. GS Warrior, Cold to the Miscellany, GOB, Grim B, D, the Lobster Dancing, Banana Land Dinosaur Monster, Just Ghostly, Witchy Kitty 416, Karen L, Michael M, Amber R, Brant C, Shane O'Mac, Joe, Christina S, Kelly C, bloop, Crazy Legs, Cowboys are the worst franchise ever, Miss Macabre, Noroku, Rachel G, Cold Warrior, Zesty Rob, and a Batman onesie enjoying the freshest slice of Ohio pizza, D from H-Town, Meta A, Monster Mom 04, Wicked Alley, Dark Snark. If other planets are real, then how come we can't drive out there and check out what they be hiding? It's a great question. Megan S, Arcade Hunters, Wayne C, Thwop goes the octopus. Crystal Quinn can confirm that Rob has a weird belly button. Thick Boy Freddy's baby mama was definitely yeeted. Alicia E, the ghost formerly known as Thick Boy Freddy. That made me sad for some reason.
Quite sad.
It was sad because it wasn't 193 characters longer.
Yes, I agree. If you need a haunting in your house, call the Warrens for reverse exorcisms. Sam from the Paul, Joe, Flappy Bird R, El Capone is still relevant. Huggy Bear. And then we have the Ryman Auditorium awaits your coverage, Dave. Solar Flare, Mariah M, Kiralee J, Cody G, Hooply Whooply, Soph, and Mr. Hugsworth. Thank you so much for
Mr. Hugsworth.
On Patreon. I will give a challenge to anyone in chat to attempt to pronounce this. Dave, I will, or both of you guys, you have a chance now to attempt to pronounce this word. There it is in chat. Good luck. Rob, let's have you take a crack at it first.
Why do I have to go first? I want to go second.
Pneumonitromicroscopic silicovolcanic onneosis.
Oh, you did good. You did good. Rob, I won't even make you try. But that was good. Go ahead.
All right. You ready?
Can you plug it into Google to see if it's a real thing?
Numinal ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoniosis.
It is a thing. No, it's not. It's an invented long word to mean a lung disease caused by inhaling very fine ash and sand dust. I mean, that sounds like a real thing, but it says it's an invented long word.
All words are invented.
Yeah. It's the most accurate thing you've ever said on the show, actually.
Pop says that's the actual name for black lung disease.
Hang on. Yeah, because it says how many people have died from this. And in 2017, 1,600 people died. In 2018, yeah, there's been 43,000 deaths from this made up thing. It is a real thing. It's just, I don't know. Anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Well, whoever that was, I think it was Doug, right? Broke the show.
I don't know if it was Doug.
I think it was Taco.
Or was it Taco?
It was, well, I won't out this person, but it was not Doug.
Yeah, it was Taco.
Was that Taco's name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Got it. All right. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode, and we will catch you guys next time. Get your tickets for the live show, and we will see you next week for another episode of Hometown Ghost Stories. Appreciate it.
Peace.